What up, YouTube? What up, boxing fans? This video is going to be all about Oscar De La Hoya. Uh, and this is really a fighter that uh, was, before Mayweather, before Pacquiao, De La Hoya was the most popular fighter in between pretty much right after Sugar Ray Leonard retired. He basically passed the torch down to Oscar De La Hoya, especially after De La Hoya won the gold in the Olympics. They call him the Golden Boy for a reason. And after that, he was one of the most celebrated and popular boxers to ever fight. And between like uh, like 1995 and the year 2000, he was definitely the face of boxing. And even moving on to, say, 2008, he was still the face of boxing. Up until he lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao. Now, regarding his career, I find it very interesting that for, one of the more celebrated popular fighters, De La Hoya's performances on the highest level, facing elite competition, for a Hall of Fame fighter, for an Olympic gold medalist, such a high pedigree. Oscar De La Hoya has had some of the worst performances in on the highest stage, and this video is counting down Oscar De La Hoya's worst performances at the highest level. Now, he's had some great performances. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best fighters to ever fight. He's definitely a top 100. But being honest, he has had many, many bad performances. And definitely, he's had very close fights where he's lost. Like this one against Trinidad. And to me, this is his number 5 worst performance. And in this fight, he did well for the first 9 rounds. He was clearly winning after 9 rounds. But then, something clicked in his head where the corner told him, hey, you've got the fight won. Just don't get knocked out, Just box him and move, punch and move. And instead, De La Hoya runs around the ring for the next 3 rounds. He just runs and runs and runs. And he gives away the 10th, 11th, and 12th, the championship rounds. And then, the unthinkable, he loses a split decision where he was clearly winning the fight. After that loss, De La Hoya was just not the same. He went 8-6 professionally, and to me, this is his number 5 worst performance. I thought he did well after 9 rounds, but to give away the championship rounds where it matters most was was a mistake I'm sure he would dearly regret. Now, number 4 on my list of De La Hoya's worst performances, to me, his fight against Floyd Mayweather. That was a fight where I thought it was close too. I only thought Mayweather won clearly 7 rounds, clearly. Maybe 8. You could give him 8 rounds. 7 clearly. Essentially, the fight was in his hands during the championship rounds again. During 10th, 11th, 12th. The fight was in the air. And De La Hoya was sluggish. He was tired. He couldn't get off punches. He couldn't out-hustle Mayweather. And if you can't out-hustle Mayweather, if you can't throw more punches than him, he's gonna land on you. Especially, the accuracy and the defense of Floyd Mayweather. You really have to out-hustle him if you want to beat him. Because you're not gonna land cleanly. So you just have to throw a lot of volume. And De La Hoya just could not do that. He did it in a few rounds early, and he kept it close, but he could not keep that volume up. And I remember during the 24/7, he said it was his best training camp. I guess that was all, just sugarcoating for the cameras, because he let that fight slip away. Number 3 in De La Hoya's worst fights, I have Felix Sturm. Felix, we don't even know his nickname. Sturm. I think it was the Storm or something. But man, this was when De La Hoya decided to that he wanted to move up to middleweight to fight Bernard Hopkins. And he moved up to middleweight and looked sluggish. He was fast, but he just wasn't the same fighter as he was in the lower weight classes. And we saw that clearly. And against Felix Sturm, he won the fight, but most boxing fans could clearly say that Felix Sturm won that fight. That was a robbery of ages. If you want to actually call a robbery, that was the definition of a robbery. So to all those people who saw Manny Pacquiao Timothy Bradley, watch De La Hoya versus Sturm. That's a real robbery. It's a clear, clear robbery. And De La Hoya would probably admit it. Although, it's hard for a boxer to do that. But to me, that was one of his worst performances. And his third. To me, that was his third worst performance. Now, for my number two, I think you can figure it out. It's basically after he fought Felix Sturm. You know, credit to him, going after the middleweight title was quite the goal. You know, but he just could not compete with Bernard Hopkins, who was the dominant middleweight champion at the time, and he was just he was a great fighter. He was a defensive masterpiece. And he knocked out De La Hoya with, it seemed like a vicious body shot, but, you know, that body shot was crumbled De La Hoya to the canvas. And he was rolling around on the ground. He was pounding the mat, but he just could not get up. And it was a body shot in the ninth round that ended the bout. It was probably one of De La Hoya's worst looks. He just, I don't know, he was screaming in agony. He was like, man, that must have hurt a lot of De La Hoya fans. Because De La Hoya versus Hopkins, he just could not compete with Bernard Hopkins. And some might think it was a close fight going into the ninth round. But I thought Bernard Hopkins was winning pretty clearly. And man, they were screaming for the body shot, and Bernard Hopkins gave it to him. It was a very good left hook, right under the rib cage, and it crumbled De La Hoya. And to me, De La Hoya's number one worst performance, I think this one's pretty obvious. It's Manny Pacquiao. In this fight, De La Hoya was he was supposed to come down to 145, and he did, but then he only rehydrated up to 147, which was completely unexpected. The majority of the boxing public, at least 50%, thought De La Hoya would come in at 160, bully Manny Pacquiao, and myself included. I thought De La Hoya would just destroy Manny Pacquiao because he'd come in at 160, but he didn't. I remember right before the fight, you could see De La Hoya's body, and it looks drained, and he just does not look right. And I knew right then that this fight is up in the air. So De La Hoya then gets annihilated by Manny Pacquiao. Just takes every punch in the book. It was probably the only fight other than Ricky Hatton where Pacquiao actually landed his right hand. But yeah, De La Hoya, that was definitely his worst performance. And fortunately, it was his last fight. It was clear it was time for him to retire. But overall, he's had a glorious career as a fighter. But to me, he's had a lot of bad performances, and that's my top 5 De La Hoya worst performances. All right, take care, guys. Peace out.